Hey guys, welcome back to the final episode of Transfer News latest for this summer because it's deadline day. It has been absolute chaos today, so let's get into it. Before I get started, I would like to remind you guys to please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Also, comment down below on your thoughts on the current transfer news. Well, I think we should start with the biggest news of the day. Well, probably the biggest of all the biggest news actually, and that is Alexander Isak is going to Liverpool. The deal is locked and loaded. Here we go. The deal has finally been agreed with Liverpool to pay a Premier League record of £130 million. Isak has finally gotten his dream move to Liverpool and is already on his way for his medical tests. And that wasn't the only signing the Reds made today, as Liverpool also signed Mark Guéhi from Crystal Palace for £35 million with a 10% sell-on clause. This deal was only completed because Crystal Palace had signed Igor Julio from Brighton on loan with an option to buy. However, this deal collapsed, which meant that Guéhi's move to Liverpool collapsed 4 hours later, despite agreeing personal terms with Liverpool and completing his medical with Liverpool. But because the deal for Guéhi's replacement collapsed, it meant Palace couldn't really go ahead with authorising Guéhi's move to Liverpool. Therefore, Liverpool didn't really get their man. This certainly makes Liverpool seem more beatable because Guéhi definitely would have helped Liverpool stop more goals coming in, well, being scored against them. And this would also make Liverpool seem more catchable and maybe the title wouldn't have been wrapped up by Christmas. Well, it certainly won't be now Guéhi didn't go. But it is a shame for Guéhi because he wanted this Liverpool move and he had personal terms agreed with them for like a month now. But things happened which were out of his control and he couldn't help, so he's stuck where he is. It's a shame, but his contract runs out in June, so he may still go to Liverpool, but Palace won't get any money out of it. And so now we move on to Manchester United, who have made significant moves in the last 24 hours. Firstly, they have finally signed a goalkeeper. They have signed Seny Lamens from Royal Antwerp for €21 million. He will sign for the club immediately, and finally United will have a replacement for Onana. Lamens between the sticks in the league and Bayinda in goal in the cup competition, well, the FA Cup now, United could actually do well. And things get even better for Manchester United fans as the rest of the bomb squad has left the club. First, Antony has signed for Real Betis on a permanent deal of €25 million. And Manchester United will have a 50% sell-on clause on any profit for his future sale. And Antony will be in Sevilla in the next 24 hours and to get the medical done. And that will finally be the end of the saga of the worst transfer of Manchester United. And secondly, Jadon Sancho has signed for Aston Villa on loan. Honestly, I'm just waiting for him to sign a permanent deal away from United. That's really all he needs. Actually, I just realised. Yeah, I think Malacia is actually still at the club. Maybe. I'm actually not sure. No, I think Tyrell Malacia is actually still at the club and he's the last of the bomb squad still there. If he isn't, let me know in the comments where he went, because I actually don't remember seeing any news from him. Anyway, going back to Aston Villa, and they have signed Harvey Elliott on loan with an obligation to buy for £35 million. His medical is being arranged soon. As for Manchester City, and they have signed Gianluigi Donnarumma from PSG for £26 million, or €30 million. Donnarumma has agreed to a 5-year deal with the option of signing for another year. And his medical was scheduled for this afternoon, which has been completed, and he has signed his contract at Manchester City. Now, don't forget that this deal went through mainly because Man City sold Ederson to Fenerbahce for £12 million. Funnily enough, actually, and Manchester City have sold one of their players to Fenerbahce's main rival. Manchester City and Galatasaray have agreed a deal for İlkay Gündoğan. After coming back to City on a free transfer from Barcelona, he is now leaving the club again with authorization by City to sign a 2-year contract with Galatasaray. Honestly, that makes sense. He really didn't work well coming back to the Premier League. And Man City have made one more deal, and that is selling Manuel Akanji to Inter Milan on loan for €2 million and then an option to buy for €15 million. This buy clause will become mandatory if Akanji plays at least 50% of the games for Inter and if Inter win the Serie A this season. Don't forget, Akanji is only going to Inter because Benjamin Pavard has signed for Marseille on loan with the option to buy for €15 million. And for my next story, and you know how Isak spent the entire summer waiting for a move? Well, so did another player, and that move has now been completed. The deal for Yoane Wissa to Newcastle has been locked and loaded. Here we go. After posting on his Instagram story his wish to leave, Brentford have accepted Newcastle's proposal of £55 million. He has already completed his medical, and I'm pretty sure he's been given the number 9 shirt. Honestly, it's so good that he finally got the move that he wanted. Hopefully he does well at Newcastle. But that's not the only transfer in Tyneside today, as Sunderland have signed Lucero Geertruida from Leipzig on loan for a loan fee of €2.5 million, and then an option to buy for €23 million. I mentioned a few days ago that he was set to go to Marseille, so Sunderland have clearly stolen him at the last minute. And fair play to them. Over in Nottingham, and Forest have struck an agreement with Strasbourg to sign Dilaine Bakwa for €35 million on a 5-year contract. In addition, and Forest had initially signed Atletico Madrid left-back Javi Galán. However, that deal collapsed, and Forest instead signed Alexander Zinchenko on loan from Arsenal. I mean, fair enough, he's hardly played for Arsenal, so it's good for him to actually move for game time. And staying with Arsenal, and Brentford have signed Reiss Nelson on loan, and he is now on his way to Brentford for his medical. And to wrap things up, my final stories for tonight are all in London. First up, we head to Tottenham, who have signed Randall Kolo Muani on a straight loan from PSG for €5 million. This was a move wanted by Kolo Muani, mainly because his loan deal at Juve collapsed and he didn't want to stay at PSG anymore. But now he's signed for Tottenham, and I'm not too sure how they're going to play all the strikers they have, because they also have Richarlison and Mathys Tel on their books. So who knows what's going to happen there. And moving to Chelsea, and Bayern have agreed to take back Nicholas Jackson on loan with an obligation to buy. Bayern will pay Chelsea a loan fee of €16.5 million for Jackson, who will sign a 5-year contract. So here's what I don't get. Because Delap got injured, Chelsea cancelled the loan moves for both of their other strikers. And then Jackson didn't want to return to London, he wanted to move to Bayern, so he and Chelsea had a whole 2-day argument of trying to stay in Munich. But then when he finally agrees to actually return to London, Chelsea have already agreed to recall Guiu, so instead Chelsea send Jackson back to Munich. Like, what was the point of the last few days? The only good things that have come out of this is that now we get more money for Jackson to go back out on loan, and it looks like he's permanently leaving the club. But at the same time, I think I've already alluded to this, but it also makes me ask, what was the point of the last 2 days? You got Guiu back, so why were you trying and failing to recall Jackson from loan when he clearly didn't want to come back? Honestly, just a normal day at Chelsea is all I ask for. Anyway, Strasbourg have agreed to sign Ben Chilwell on a 2-year loan. This is a shame if you ask me, because he's a Champions League winner with us, and he was frozen out by Maresca because he didn't fit his system. So it happens, but it's a shame. At least he'll be able to get some game time on the Liam Rossignol. In addition, and talks between AS Roma and Tyreek George broke down, so Fulham decided to come in for him, but talks fell through at the last minute. In case you haven't guessed, that makes me really happy because I never wanted George to leave Chelsea. I always thought he was so good to actually just be let go permanently. And now he's being registered with Chelsea's Champions League squad, to which the deadline is by 11 PM tomorrow night. Fair enough. And speaking of Fulham, and they have completed the deal for Kevin from Shakhtar Donetsk. The deal is locked and loaded. The Brazilian winger will sign a long-term deal with the Cottagers worth 45 million euros. In addition, and for my final story for tonight, and Fulham signed Samuel Chukwueze on loan from AC Milan with an option to buy. He is already at Fulham's training ground and completed his medical. From what I've read, if Fulham were to buy him after his loan, it would be for a fee of 25 or 26 million euros. I think he's done well at Milan, and if Fulham want to contend for the top 8, he might be worth buying. We'll just see. Well, that concludes the transfer news for this summer transfer window. It was certainly crazy with a lot of strange and massive signings. And now we have the opportunity to sit back and watch the chaos unfold. Also, now the season is starting and there are no more transfers, I don't really know what content to make. If you have any ideas, let me know down in the comments. I do have a few ideas, like my Premier League predictions video, which I still definitely have not made. That is the truth, actually. I still haven't made that and I need to do that. But anyway, if you do have any ideas, please comment them down below. I would love to hear from you. But that's all the transfer news I have for you tonight for the final time. So thank you all so very much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you and goodbye.